Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Losses Above Replacement podcast, the greatest baseball podcast to grace your ears. I'm today's host, Mathias Kurosaki, and with me, as always, we have my amazing co-hosts, Ryan Slash Potts and Alex Clark. Gentlemen, first things first, we are 2 days away from the season beginning in Seoul. How are we doing on this fine Monday evening?
Just excited for baseball to be back. Like I'm watching Seattle play pretty decent baseball over in spring, and even if some of the games have been, canceled due to rain, it's I'm still like my excitement is building, which is something that if you had asked that question back on December 20th, I would have just said no.
Yeah, I feel you with the excitement. The Braves are braving. Um, they're doing Braves things, scoring runs in the first inning, blowing leads. It's all a fun time. But I'm glad to get into a preview podcast. I can smell the baseball in the air, even though it's still winter, technically.
I went to the beach yesterday, actually, part of playing Pokemon Go, and they have a Kids Valley. Oh, no, sorry, an Ivar's in Kids Valley at the place, and they were selling garlic fries. And so I was just walking through, even though I don't like garlic fries myself, the smell of it always just reminds me of ballpark. So that
Oh
made me
man,
happy.
I could go for some of those. Yeah, I got back from Boston. Really fun weekend in Boston. Although word to the wise, don't take the T on St. Patrick's Day in Boston. I
Yeah,
was
that sounds
literally
about right.
backed into I was literally backed into a corner with my stuff as I tried to get to the Amtrak station. So word to the wise, don't do it. I'm sure it's fun, but I'm like celebrating it. If you're actually there to go to the parade, I'm sure it's a lot of fun. But that was unpleasant. But other than that, yeah, it was fun. And I am heading to Florida in 2 days to go to spring training. My roommate and I are going to see the Yankees and the Pirates on Wednesday night. And then I get to see the Mets play the Tigers in Lakeland the following day. We're going to go to an NBA game too, see the Magic play the Pelicans. And
Nice.
then I believe we plan on seeing the Blue Jays play the Red Sox in Dunedin. So we got
Hmm.
a fun week ahead. And like Splash said, we are doing a preview today. We are, with the Dodgers and Padres opening up their season this week, we might as well go ahead and do our NL predictions. We're going to go through our divisions. We're going to go through our awards today just for the National League. So I say we dive right in and start. Let's start out hot today with the division that I feel like we all follow the closest in the National League East. I, you know, the Braves have won the last six NL East titles. They're working on a bit of a run like they did in the 90s. So, Splash, you're the Braves fan. Let's start with you. Give me your rundown of the National League East.
All right, boys and girls. Nationals in fifth. I'm sorry. I'm going to watch them a lot. I like Abrams. I like Lane Thomas. I like Mackenzie Gore. I like Josiah Gray. Of course, they're pulling at my heartstrings by getting Eddie Rosario and Jesse Winker and Joey Gallo this offseason. But this is a team that I don't trust the pitching staff as a whole. I think they can hit. I think they will be certainly a fun watch. But I'll have them, in the 60s wins wise, potentially maybe like 70. Um,
I think they're a
I,
little higher than 60s.
you should see some of the projections. They have them in the 50s.
Oof.
Some
That's
of the projections
disrespectful
are
in my
I feel like
opinion.
that's
low on the
disrespectful.
Nationals.
They
Yeah.
won in
So
the 70s last year, though.
okay, yeah, the projections are really low on the Nationals. I could see anywhere from 65 to 75 wins. Um, Fun team though. I will say Dylan Cruz coming up, James Wood coming up, Robert Hassel coming up. I'm excited to see it in 2 or 3 years. Maybe potentially they replace the Phillies when the Phillies lose Schwarber and Castellanos and Real Muto here in a couple years. But regardless, number four, Miami. Where's the offense? Where's the offense, pal? Your infield is going to be Jake Berger, who's a good baseball player, Luis Ariz, who's a good baseball player, Tim Anderson. I don't know what to expect from TA this year. Former batting champ, but was awful last season.
He had one home run.
Yeah, one home
Hmm.
run. Got punched by two different MLB players, hit one home run. Good job, pal. You have Josh Bell, who's kind of mid. Josh Chisholm, exciting player. I'm excited to see him play a full season, hopefully. Hopefully he doesn't go down the Byron Buxton path of being injured every year, but I don't know. Brian De La Cruz, dying of mid. Evasael Garcia, not a good baseball player, respectfully, but this team can pitch, so I wouldn't be surprised if they outperform expectations here a little bit like they did last year. But then again, Tanner Scott's been a little rough in spring training. You're moving AJ Puck to the rotation, which is fun, but you're also no Sandy for the entire season. Yuri Perez is dealing with an injury right now. It looks like not Luzardo, the other one. Edward Cabrera is looking like he'll miss at least
Braxton
one.
Garrett
Yeah,
is going to be
Garrett's
out
hurt.
too.
Cabrera's going to miss probably a turn or two in the rotation. So there's a lot of pitching, I will admit, but I think they're a fourth place team. Mets coming in third. I think getting Edwin Diaz back, you can definitely flip their record around. I was listening to Locked On Mets yesterday, and Brian Finkelstein made a good point that sometimes it's like just having the pitcher there, but a lot of the Diaz is having Diaz on the team. Like, regardless if he pitches or not, just knowing Edwin Diaz is in that bullpen, it can be really helpful for the Mets, like thought wise. Like, their brains can think, I have Edwin Diaz on my team. The other team doesn't. We are going to beat you. So I have the Mets in third, may or may not have them in the playoffs. We will hold off on that one. Phillies in second. Congratulations. I'm slamming the over on 89.5 wins. Just slamming the over on that one. And congratulations. They will beat the Dodgers in the NLDS. And the National League East champions for the 7th year in a row, the Atlanta Braves, for my money, the best team in baseball. Great lineup top to bottom. Last year, they set the record for highest slugging percentage in a full season. They tied the record for home runs in a season. Yes, there are regression candidates all over the team. I understand that, but there are also progression candidates all over the team. Look at the pitching staff. This team won 104 games without Max Fried for a lot of the season, without Kyle Wright, who won 20 games in 2022. You bring in a Chris Sale. You hopefully get more production of Max Fried. You get a full year out of Raisel Iglesias. I think you get positive regression on the pitching end, and the offense is still very good and very deep and very young. And guys like Michael Harris aren't going to be garbage for 2.5 months in all likelihood. Sean Murphy probably won't be horrible for half the season. So there's my National League East.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of I see your vision with the Marlins, especially because they lost their biggest power bat in their lineup, Jorge Soler, and they haven't really replaced him. That's my biggest concern with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jake
They're
Burger hits for
arguing
power.
that they're arguing their replacement is getting a full year out of Bell and Berger. And yes, that's true, but
Yeah,
Soler's a different tier to me. That, like, Jake Berger, uh, Alex is going to understand this, is like power hitter and MLB Power Pros. You can have A power, like Chase Utley had A power, but there were guys that may have had B power but had power hitter. Richie Sexton had C-level power, but had power hitter. And there's a different like fear element. There's a different element that Berger's going to get to like 35 home runs, probably. Maybe not in that ballpark, but 30 to 35 home runs. But
yeah,
Soler, every time he walks to the plate, he might take you 500 feet, especially if you're a left-handed pitcher.
yeah. So like that's the thing is, I feel like the Marlins haven't done enough because in my opinion, the best player on their team should be Jazz Chisholm, but he has yet to play a full season. So if Chisholm's healthy, I think he's an incredibly talented player. He's really exciting and fun to watch. I need to see him play a full season. It's like you were saying, it's the Byron Buxton thing. Like, we know how good Buxton can be once he stayed healthy. But Alex, why don't you go ahead and give us your NL East?
Sure, let's start things off here. And fifth with the Atlanta Braves. No,
Oh
I'm
wow,
sorry. I've been.
how'd you know? We had the same pick.
Oh my gosh, no. For a little bit of
Are you
just
Pacoda?
Yes,
For
Pacoda.
those of you like again that aren't us, I was razzing Splash before the podcast. I love you, buddy. But no, okay. Number five, the Nationals. I mean, they've brought in some cool names to have a little bit of fun, but they're not good. They're not gonna be good. There's very little pitching. There's some star power, but that star power is either way past his prime or didn't deserve the star power to begin with. So that's my number five. Number four, the Marlins. Kind of similar to what Splash said as well. Like, the offense just isn't quite there. Like, you have two really good hitters in um Luis Reyes and Jake Berger, but other than that, the rest of the team is just kind of meh. Jazz Chisholm is going to be the biggest question mark for the team overall, like as for one singular player. are you going to get what MLB The Show thought Jazz Chisholm was going to be in 2023, or are you going to get what we actually got, which is someone who's injury prone and won't stay on the field? My number 3, I am also going with the Mets here. I think that the Mets have a lot of good upsides to them, and one big one is Mr. Trumpet Man himself, Edwin Diaz, coming back and is going to be playing again. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to come back to being, in my opinion, probably one of the best closers in the game again. The problem with them really is just gonna be consistency. There's a lot of pitching questions I have with the team. There's a few offensive questions, but they do have a lot of good numbers, and the re-addition of Diaz here is going to be what is, I think, the biggest thing in returning them around. Just because, like what we talked about on last week's podcast, having Diaz on your team makes the other pitchers better. Him being on your team makes everyone better. My number 2 team is the Phillies. The Phillies are a really good baseball team. They are a very, very good baseball team. I have a few questions around the offense and their consistency. Like we've seen over and over again that they've had a lot of really fun players that when they're all on, they're one of the most exciting teams in all of baseball. They have arguably one of the not arguably, they have one of the best starting pitching rotations in baseball. They've got some really good bullpen arms. It's really fun to watch what they do. My biggest problem when it comes to the Phillies is, can they stay consistent? When you have a bunch of guys that are really big power hitters, that are really strong guys that can, hit a ball 5,000 feet, but bat 220 at best, can you rely on that? And that's my biggest question. We've seen before in the past that you can, but that's why they're not number 3. They're number 2 for that purpose. And then number 1, it's the Braves. I mean, you have arguably one of the best pitchers in all of baseball there with Strider. You have arguably the best overall player in the game in Acuna. You've got such amazing players everywhere around it. The bullpen's good. The starting rotation is good. There isn't a hole on this team. There really is not. If I had to think of one, I would say maybe a bit of the bullpen, but that's a maybe. That's a maybe. Like, I mean, maybe there's something else at the back end of the starting 5, but this is probably the most complete team that we're seeing in all of baseball here. Like, I mean, you could also argue that the Dodgers are maybe a more complete team, but at the same time, like, if you're comparing yourself to the team that we have been making fun of for being basically the MLB The Show of real life, I think you're doing something right.
So I'll just go ahead and say it, and it pains me to say it, but the Braves are going to win this division. I don't see a way they don't. And the Nationals are going to come in last. I'm not saying the Nationals are necessarily as bad as they were entering last year or entering 2022 or after they trade Soto. Like it's just they aren't going to be able to keep up with the talent in the rest of the division. The Marlins, like I said earlier, the Marlins I don't think have done an adequate job replacing Soler, and also now with all these injuries to their pitching staff, I just you're relying on AJ Puck in his first season as a starter. I don't know what to expect. I really liked him better as a reliever. And the rotation's just a bunch of question marks. I mean, you have Jesus Luzardo. He's their best pitcher for now, but Yuri Perez is out, Sandy Alcantara is out, Braxton Garrett, Edward Cabrera. It's just so many injuries. I don't see them keeping up with the Braves or the Phillies or the Mets. And the Mets are my third place team. I think the Mets are better than I think some people are giving them credit for. You got to remember also that the Marlins were, I believe, 34-13 in one-run games last year. They were insane in one-run games. That's bound to even out this year. And the Mets, like you guys are saying with Diaz, I mean, I said it last week when we were doing our reliever rankings. They were, the Mets bullpen was their ERA was like almost a full run higher without Diaz, and this year they're getting him back. Now I'm not saying it's going to magically drop a full run lower again, but it's going to be significantly better, and that does make a big difference. And I like the fact that they're moving Nimmo to left field and they're putting Bader in center. And yes, Senga's out, but I'm really excited about Luis Severino, like I said last week. So I think the Mets, they're a solid third place team. The Phillies, I mean, they're bringing back basically the same team that played at a 99 win pace from June 1st onward last year. The one issue is that apparently Bryce Harper's dealing with a bit of a back issue, which could definitely hurt them. I mean, we saw how much they struggled without Harper last year or when he wasn't fully healthy. So the Phillies are in second, but I think that the gap between the Phillies and Mets is closer than people think. I'll just say that much. And then the Braves are going to run away with this division. I don't see how anyone can contend with them. So let's move over to a division that I think doesn't have a clear favorite. Probably the only division in the National League. That's the NL Central. Alex, let's go to you first on this. What do you see shaking out in the NL Central?
Well, funny you use the term "shaken out" here because I feel like I could put I could take each one of these teams, put them in a hat, shake it up, and then pull out the divisions by which name I pulled out first. They all feel like almost the exact same team, just with different ingredients. Like, and I feel like that might be a bit mean, but it's true at this point. Like, you take a look at the Cardinals, Cubs, Brewers, Pirates, and Reds, and they all have an upside. Maybe two if they're lucky, but really, there's not a lot to work with here. And if you're an NL Central fan or one of these fans, I'm sorry for, kind of trashing the division here a bit, but it's kind of true here, guys. Like, this was the division I had the hardest of these three trying to rank. And it was because I had no idea where to put it number one and where to put it number five. They felt like they could all fit there. So this is what I ended up going with. Finishing fifth, I went with the Cardinals. I think that the Cardinals here just do not have much going on for them. We've talked about how their devil magic has been able to protect them for years. Didn't see it last year. Really didn't see it last year.
They went
So
the opposite direction.
yeah, no,
In
100%.
Adam Wainwright's last year, like,
Isn't that sad? For one of the game's like elder statesmen. Anyway, again, they've got not a whole lot. I will talk about the Cardinals a little bit more later on here, but we'll get to that. Number 4, I went with the Brewers. And the Brewers, I think some people could say they could win the division. They've still got some good hitters on the team. They've got some players, but really the big question now is what's their pitching going to be? Because they've gotten rid of basically everybody. So now you have Devin Williams. Congratulations. Doesn't mean a whole lot if you can't get a lead and you can't hold it
and
to the
also
ninth
he's
inning.
out a few months
Oh
now.
yeah, you're right. He's out with the back injury. Broke
So
his back carrying the team.
yeah, that's the issue. Yes.
Ugh. Man, 2 fractures of the back, but also please get
Yeah,
Devin Williams. We
that's
want the
painful.
airbender back. Number 3, I went with the Pirates. I think that the Pirates are interesting. They've got some of the best talent-wise players in this division. I would say I think that O'Neal Cruz, if he reaches his full potential, is going to be a superstar. He has all the abilities to do that. And then Ke'Bryan Hayes is arguably the best defender we have ever seen. Like, watching him at third base is astounding. And the fact he finally got his gold glove, like, good for him. But overall, I mean, aside from that, they've got Aroldis Chapman. They, in the farm system, have Paul Skeens, but that's not going to be. He's not making the majors yet. Won't even make it this year, I don't think.
He might
Good.
make it this year.
I don't
If
want him
it-
to make it this year. I want him to mature at least a little
I
bit,
feel like he's
please.
not quite ready, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's up in like September.
If he gets a September call up, I'm okay with that. But
Skeens and Jared Jones is going to cure a lot of diseases in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Jared Jones is legit. By the way, yes.
No, fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I feel like the Pirates are third purely just from how weak the division is. They're in almost any other division. If they're in either the East or the West, it's very possible they're fifth or fourth. My number 2 team here, I am going with the Reds. The Reds, I think, are a good team, but they need more time. We saw something last year about seeing how well the Reds were playing at the midway point after they brought up Ellie De La Cruz, that things started to click. They were on a massive winning streak for a while, middle of the year, and then fizzled out. And I feel like that winning streak was a sign. It was like a premonition in a way of what we may be seeing in the coming years. I don't think that year is right now, though. I don't think that is right now. I think that we're still a year, maybe 2 away. And I really want to see what they can do. But because the division is weak and they've got some great young players on it, I'm putting them at number 2. And the Cubs, are my pick to finish first in the division. I think that they've got some really cool pieces at it. Again, having some really good starters, bringing back Bellinger, I think it's going to do a lot for team morale on that. Plus, you've still got some other good guys like Nico Horner that can play some good baseball. So, are they a number one team? No, but they're number one in the Central. And I do think that, one of you guys made a thing in the pre-show that I really liked. I think it was you, Splash. That if I had to bet my life on one team to make the playoffs, it is the Cubs. You have to bet on one team to make the World Series from this division. It's the Reds. But I still think that overall, just looking at it point for point, the Cubs are the best team in the division.
So I'll say this about the NL Central, that there aren't any teams that are downright terrible, like are going to lose 100 games or anything, but there aren't any teams that are elite, and I could see them winning 95 or 100 games, really. The Cardinals, I think, last place. They're just an aging team. I'm not particularly high on that rotation that is comprised of people in their mid to late 30s. Their youngest starter, if I'm not mistaken, is the currently injured Sonny Gray, who's going to be 34 this year. So that's one issue. Their offense, I mean, their best players are Arenado and Goldschmidt. Both are on the wrong side of 30, and Goldschmidt is 36 currently. So Jordan Walker, in my opinion, is the guy to get most excited about. He's young. He hits the ball very hard. He needs to figure out how to play defense, but Walker for sure. I always want Lars Nootbaar to stay healthy, but he's injured already. And he had, I believe, 3 trips to the IL last year. So the Cardinals are in last. I have the Pirates in fourth. I think they're just a tick behind the Brewers, who I have in third. The Brewers have a little bit more major league ready talent, in my opinion. But the Pirates, they're trending upwards, with guys like Cruz and Hayes, and eventually Skeens and Jones. There's a lot to get excited about. Oh, and Henry Davis and Endy Rodriguez, both catchers. So I'm curious to see if Davis moves to the outfield permanently. There's a lot to get excited about in Pittsburgh, though. I think the Steel City's looking up. Mitch Keller, I think he's going to take that next step to becoming an ace. Yeah, the Brewers, I know that they lost Devin Williams, but Abner Uribe is really good. So watch out for Uribe this year. I have the Reds coming in second now. I'll say this: the Reds, I could see them being like the 2022 Guardians. They're a young team. They're exciting. Their offense, in particular, even with Noel V. Marte getting suspended and with TJ Friedel being out. I mean, you have Matt McClain, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Ellie De La Cruz, even Jonathan India still there. They signed Jamer Candelario. Tyler Stevenson, he has potential. I mean, it's a good team. They just need pitching. Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo have upside, but I need to see the on-field results to back that up. And then the Cubs, I think they're just the most complete team in the division. I really like that they brought in Imanaga and that they re-signed Bellinger. So they have the most major league ready talent in the division. It's a relatively young division other than St. Louis. So I have the Cubs winning the division. I don't expect much more than an NLDS appearance, maybe NLCS, but yeah, that's the NL Central. It's kind of a weird division. So Splash, why don't you give us your take?
Yeah, for sure. Starting in fifth, I have Milwaukee.
Oh, wow.
The veneer of the team. Freddie Peralta, I like Freddie Peralta. I like William Contreras. I like Hoskins. I like Yelich. I like Adames. I like the bullpen, even without Devin Williams. Like the Brewers have a pitching factory. They're currently slated to have Trevor McGill, Joel Payamps, and Abner Uribe split time as the closer. Hobie Milner has been good for them. Bryce Wilson was good for them. Elvis Peguero has been good for them. They also have some guys at the top of the minors that could be interesting options moving forward. But to me, the Brewers just do not have the killer instinct to hit. And I think they're going to run into some serious issues at just scoring enough runs to win ball games. And that's a pretty significant issue. Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio, Bryce Terang, Garrett Mitchell, like that's half of your lineup. And I don't know how productive they're going to be. I think Gary Sanchez is going to be perfectly adequate, but their bench is a lot of mid, frankly. Moving on to fourth, I have Pittsburgh. This is a team that I think is definitely on the Cincinnati arc. This is their 2023 version. I would not be surprised if they get really good. You call up a Skeens, you call up a Jared Jones, and they go on a bit of a winning streak. Obviously, a little different with a pitcher versus a position player. But I like what Pittsburgh is building here. I like the culture that they're building. They've assigned Keller, Reynolds, Hayes to extensions. You have young players like Cruz, who's only 25. Hayes just turned 27. Jack Sawinski brings a lot of power in the outfield. Henry Davis, I'll talk more about in a little bit. They just signed Michael A. Taylor. So now the Connor Joes and the G1 Bays and the Edward Olivareses of the world, now those are bench options. And I like them a lot more as like a plug and play type as opposed to a Michael A. Taylor, who I think can be an everyday outfielder, a gold glove caliber guy who's going to hit 20 home runs at the bottom of your lineup. And that's just increasing your volatility, I think, and that's good for Pittsburgh. You bring in Rowdy Tellez, who historically has been really good at PNC Park. His swing was made for the Clemente wall. The
He hits the
pitching,
ball really hard too.
yes,
Mhm.
the pitching, Keller, Perez, Gonzalez, Ortiz. If it's fine. Keller was kind of up and down last year. I know he was an all-star, but it's a sort of the, I don't want to say Pirates all-star, but it's his numbers under the hood aren't quite where you want them to be if he's your number one pitcher. But this is a team that can call up a Jared Jones, that can call up a Paul Skeens later in the season. And then the bullpen, I like it. Bednar is dealing with an injury right now. Chapman, Holderman, they can pitch, and I think there's some value there. I think the Pirates could be a sneaky team that maybe next year we're talking about as a serious playoff contender. And third, I have the Cardinals. It's an old roster, but it's an offensively talented roster, very unbrewers. That Brendan Donovan, good hitter. Paul Goldschmidt, good hitter. Nolan Gorman, good hitter. Nolan Arenado, good hitter. Wilson Contreras, good hitter. Alec Burleson hasn't shown it at the major league level, but in theory, a good hitter. Jordan Walker, good hitter. Dylan Carlson, I don't know what he's doing nowadays. Mason Wynn, in theory, could be a good hitter, but I think he'll be very good defensively. Maybe one day you call it Victor Scott and you infuse speed and defense into your team. The pitching staff is very old. Michaelis is 35 already. Gibson's 36. Lynn's about to be 37. Matz is 33, about to be 33. Sonny Gray is getting up there. But I like the bullpen. You bring in Kittredge from the Rays. You have Gallegos. You have Helsley at the back end. Jojo Romero, who hasn't been quite as good in spring training. It's like an 80-win team. I have the Cubs in second. Like Alex mentioned earlier, this is a very, to me, a high floor, low ceiling team that I would be very surprised if the Cubs winning, if the Cubs number of wins did not begin with an 8. They won 79 games, I'd be shocked. They won 90 games, I'd be maybe not shocked, but I'd be reasonably surprised. The lineup's good. You have Happ and Suzuki, Bellinger, Morel, Swanson, Michael Bush is an exciting piece. Nico Horner can really pick it. The sorry, the rotation a little lefty heavy at the moment. Steele, Imanaga, Jordan Wicks. Without, I don't know. I feel like they're missing something.
They don't
The
have a true
bullpen,
ace. I feel like
yeah.
that's
The
yeah.
bullpen is fine. Alzolay is all right. Neris is a good seventh inning guy. I have my concerns about the high end of the staff. Tyone's already injured, so it's a fine team. I question the upside, but a team that has a load of upside, and I think they will win 90 games this year. The Cincinnati Reds. It starts to me now with Ellie De La Cruz, but Matt McClain. He was awesome last season. Uber productive. Was a guy that was in our rookie of the year voting for most of the year, even though he missed a big chunk of time. Then you have Ellie, who I think is going to be a 50 stolen base guy, just an electric bolt through that team. And this is a team that I think should run and run a lot. This should be a 2015 Royals, just chaos, chaos, chaos. Take the extra base here, take the extra base there. And listen, they play in a small ballpark. You can hit a bunch of home runs as well, but you can also, steal. You can, I don't love bunting, but you can, in theory, bunt, right? I don't know, whatever.
It doesn't always work,
Spencer's
but yes.
Yeah, Spencer Steer moving out to the outfield. Jake Fraley is fine. Will Benson apparently is better than Fernando Tatis. Candelario was a good addition with or without Marte. Jonathan India, I think can have a nice bounce back. CES brings a lot of power. Tyler Stevenson's a good catcher. The rotation and bullpen, you have Alexis Diaz closing it down. I think he's a little overrated, but I like the rest of the bullpen. Pagan, Sims, Cruz, Suter, Farmer, TJ Antone. The rotation, Montas is your opening day starter, which I think that is a Nick Kroll and company in Cincinnati telling Hunter Green that he needs to pick it up, and telling Graham Ashcraft he needs to pick it up, and telling Andrew Abbott he needs to pick it up, because that's a good
And
two,
Nick
three, four.
Lodolo.
And Nick Lodolo, he's hurt right now. You bring in Nick Martinez as a nice swing arm, but I have the Reds as my 90 win, third seed in the National League.
I mean, I think the Reds, their ceiling, like you said, I think the ceiling is definitely higher than the Cubs. I think the floor is a bit lower because that pitching staff. I'm not sure what to expect. And while I'm a huge fan of Alexis Diaz, he definitely did fall off in the second half last year. So I'm curious to see how he does over the course of the 2024 season. But let's head over to the West and also get started here. There's a clear favorite in this division. There's no way to dance around it. They've won the division 10 of the last 11 years. The Dodgers are, I mean, I don't see how anyone will challenge them. I'm not saying this is a bad division, because this is a division that has the potential to put three teams in the playoffs, in my opinion. The Rockies are in last place. They're probably in last place in the entire National League, if I'm being completely honest. No disrespect here to Colorado. I love the city of Denver. I love Coors Field, but I'm excited about Nolan Jones. I'll tell you that much. I think Chris Bryant can have a bounce back season. There is almost nothing else to get excited about on this team. I like Justin. Actually, no, Justin Lawrence. I'm very excited about Justin Lawrence. I love watching a side armor throw 98. So there's Justin Lawrence, but that's about it. I'm going with the Padres in fourth. I'm really not high on this team. That's the issue. I think losing Juan Soto is just a huge blow to that lineup, and I don't think they've necessarily replaced him. I think Fernando Tatis Jr. is primed to have a huge year, but this is just, I like Dylan Cease, yes. I don't think I literally think he's a right-handed version of Blake Snell, but I also don't think I trust him as much as Blake Snell. That's the issue. And Yu Darvish is 37. He's getting up there in age. Again, I don't know. He kind of had a down year last year. I don't know what else to expect from him this year. He couldn't really stay healthy last year either. I think Musgrove is really their best pitcher, in my opinion. And then they don't have Josh Hader anymore. Their bullpen's kind of a question mark. Robert Suarez wasn't healthy last year. He wasn't good. So the Padres, I think, are in fourth. I think the Giants. So I have the Giants coming in third. They had a great offseason, in my opinion, getting Lee and Chapman, and then picking up Robbie Ray. I think he's a nice reclamation project. I think overall it was a great offseason for San Francisco. They either get a B or like a high B or like a low A for me for their offseason. So I have the Giants coming in third. Give me Arizona in second. I think, last year, yes, they kind of were fluky in the way that they had negative run differential and made the World Series and, squeaked by the Phillies. But they also pounded the Dodgers in the NLDS. Like, they barely faced any resistance from them. So the D-backs, I love that they signed Erod. They traded for Suarez. They signed Jock Peterson. They re-signed Gurriel. And year two, Corbin Carroll, there's a lot to be excited about in the desert. So I have, and Gabby Moreno. You're getting another full season out of Moreno. I think he's going to take some big strides behind the plate. So give me the D-backs in second, and the Dodgers are just going to run away with this. If I'm being honest, they're probably going to win the division by 15 to 20 games. But that does not guarantee success in the postseason. So let's hit Splash here with his NL West.
All right. Sorry, Rockies fans. I have you in fifth place. I will say, give me all of the Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, and Sean Bouchard stock. Just give me all of it, please. I would like all of it. And Nolan Jones as well. Just all of it. Even some Chris Bryant stock. Pitching staff is rough. But like Max said, Justin Lawrence is going to be fun. So when he gets traded in July, whoever his new team is, he will be a lot of fun to watch, similar to Pierce Johnson
He'll be
last year with the
fantastic.
Braves. He will be great. My fourth place team, this is a bit of a spicy one. I have Arizona in fourth. I think they overperformed last year. And I think they're a team that doesn't really know how they need to win. They were playing small ball in the World Series, and it's like speed. Really? My grandmother just turned on the vacuum cleaner when I'm on a podcast. Okay. Anyway,
We've all
I'll
been
continue.
there.
The joys of small budget podcasting.
Absolutely. So, before I go rip her head off, I'm not going to do that. But I have Arizona in fourth. I think this team just overachieved last year. I like Corbin Carroll. Beyond that, I like Christian Walker. I think Jock Peterson's just a platoon guy at this point. Suarez is a nice add. He's better than Evan Longoria, but I think there's also regression candidates. I don't think Ketel Marte is the superstar player. I think Gabby Moreno is an overrated player, and it's hard to say that about a rookie, but he's an overrated player. There's just no way around it as of right now. Gurriel's a fine player. Alec Thomas hasn't found his like prospect juice, and then Perdomo was a guy who is technically an all-star, and yeah, he has a star next to his name on Baseball Reference, but is he
Lindor
that
should have
good at
been
baseball?
there.
Is he that good at baseball? I have my concerns. I'd like to see Blaze Alexander get a shot. And the rotation, Gallen and Kelly, look, that's great. Eduardo Rodriguez hasn't been able to stay healthy, hasn't looked particularly good in the spring, and kind of can get whacked around sometimes. Brandon Pfaadt was really nice in the playoffs, but struggled in the regular season last year. The bullpen, Seawald and Ginkel, great, but getting to Seawald and Ginkel might be a problem. So I have Arizona in fourth. My third place team is San Diego. I think this is a team that last year Arizona overperformed. San Diego underperformed by a lot. And you can say, oh, they
Made
lost
me look
Snell.
bad.
They lost Snell. They lost Machado. They lost X, Y, and Z. Yes, correct. But they are also not going to have Xander Bogaerts hit 200 with runners in scoring position again. You're probably going to get some positive regression from Manny Machado. You bring in Dylan Cease, which is nice. Luis Campusano for a full season. That's nice. Jake Cronenworth probably won't be as bad as he was last year. Jurickson Profar, not going to be as bad as he was with the Rockies. Jackson Merrill is your starting center fielder. Bold, but I like it. And also Fernando Tatis. I will talk about it more in a little bit, but Fernando Mania, welcome back. Number 2, making the playoffs. I have San Francisco. Logan Webb, and then chaos in the starting rotation. I'd feel a lot better if they signed Snell or Montgomery. But look, I think this team can pitch. You bring in a new manager and Bob Melvin. I think you're going to kind of even out some of the Gabe Kapler ball that, yes, helped them win 107 games a few years ago, but you're kind of trying to lean into that too much. And Bob Melvin loves a good platoon, but sometimes Gabe Kapler would get so fixated on individual matchups that it just wasn't logical. But I like what the team brings defensively. You have Chapman and Ahmed on the left side of your infield. That is as good as it gets. Second base, you have Tyro Estrada, good defensive player in theory, has some power in the stick. Lamont Wade and Wilmer Flores at first as a platoon, very good options. And then your outfield is just, I think, good player after good player after good player. Are there any superstars? No, but I like what you could get out of Young Ho Lee as a contact-oriented bat, potentially a good glove, maybe some speed on the base pass. You have Yastrzemski, you have Conforto, you have Austin Slater, and Patrick Bailey behind the dish, who is the inverse of Gabby Moreno in that his defensive things that he does well are undervalued, aka framing, and Gabby's is overvalued, aka throwing guys out. Bailey is really good at everything, and I think he's one of the best catchers in baseball. And then you have Camilo Doval slamming the door at the end. You have the Rogers Schwintz, so they can
Big
actually
Tyler
get to
Rogers
Doval.
fan.
You can get to the ninth inning. I think Arizona might have some issues getting to the ninth inning. The Padres, they could have some issues. They have a bit of a closer by committee without Hader now. And then the Dodgers in first place. Congratulations on losing to the Phillies in the NLDS.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, the NL West. I mean, that's the biggest question though with the Dodgers. Alex, so obviously we both have the Dodgers winning the West. Any change ups from you?
I mean, you guys don't think the Rockies are winning at all?
I
Dang.
mean, I would love for them to, but respectfully, I don't
Respectfully,
know.
no. Yeah. All right, so yeah, I'll just go through my 5, and I'm pretty sure mine are the exact same as yours here, Mac. And that is, yeah, I have Rockies number 5. Look, I like Nolan Jones as much as the next guy. I like Chuck Nasty as much as the next guy, but they don't have really much of anything. Lawrence is gonna be fun. Tovar could be fun. Doesn't mean you have a good team. Sorry, you're number 5. Number 4, I also have the Padres. And here's my main reason. I am not talking down on Machado or on Tatis at all. I think they're good ball players. They're going to go pretty cool. But overall, they don't have a whole lot to work with. Like, they have some stuff, but here's the thing is that when you are in the lineup, when you have Tatis in the lineup and Machado, and that's really it, you're going to pitch around him a bit more. You're not going to give him those good pitches to hit. So, like, I'm not seeing that they're going to have amazing years, and it's not out of any of their own lack of ability. It's because they're going to be pitched around a lot here. And then you take a look at the pitching staff here, and I may be someone who just really doesn't like Dylan Cease, but I don't think that adding him to your team really made you any better. Like, he's an okay at best pitcher. Streaky, can be very good, but isn't most of the time. So for that reason, Padres for me are number 4. Number 3, sorry, my buddy Nolan, but it's the Giants. Here, I think the Giants made some really good progress over the offseason. I think that adding Robbie Ray at least could be interesting. We've seen over his time with Tampa Bay and with Seattle Toronto. Thank you. Toronto and Seattle, that he still's got some good stuff, but he does have a lot of issues. And if you're willing to work on reclaiming those, then all right, cool. You have some really interesting bats on the team as well. And you just added Matt Chapman to be your stalwart third baseman. So honestly, they've got some really cool pieces to work with. Pitching is going to be a bit of an issue here. I think the bullpen could be really fun. Again, we got guys like Rogers and Doval. But after that, gets a little iffy. Just a little iffy if you ask me. Number 2 for me, I'm going with the Diamondbacks. I actually don't agree with you here, Splash. I think that they performed potentially almost a little underperforming on them last year. They played exceptionally well last year, and I think that they could do even better this year. Now, when you're going to have a full season of Corbin Carroll leading the charge for them, you're going to have Paul Sewald, who, in my opinion, is still an extremely good closer, doing a lot. So, but you're going to have him for the entirety of the year. You got a great bullpen, some really good pitching arms. Guys like Christian Walker, Ketel Marte, who I do think is one of the best second basemen in baseball. Go take a look at our top 5 second basemen list here on Twitter at LAR_baseball. You take a look at those and you put them all together, and they've got some great pieces to work with. Like, really, they've got some amazing pieces, and I like seeing what they're doing with them. It's about whether or not they can put them all together. Last year they did. Now let's see if you can put them together when they all have more experience together. So, and then obviously number 1, I have the Dodgers. I mean, what more needs to be said? The MLB The Show of baseball, of real life, excuse me. What more do you need to say? They have gotten basically everybody on that team. There's no holes in that team that I can realistically think of. Potentially bullpen. I mean, even
that maybe be their biggest weakness. And health because they don't have Kershaw right now.
Oh yeah, no, health is definitely also something that's going to be weird. But if you're banking on health being something that takes an entire team down, not sure how well that was going to work out for you there, Chief. So with that though, they're easily my number 1. But I have a feeling, again, we're going to get the Dave Roberts special of doing absolutely amazing in the regular season and then choking everything in the postseason.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm really curious to see what happens when the bright lights turn on in October, because they have yet to go the extra mile in a full season. I don't know if I consider 2020 as going the extra mile because it was a 60-game season to begin with. But anyways, rapid fire before we go to awards, which is, what is your order for the playoffs? So 1 to 6. Give me your 6 teams making the playoffs.
All right, I'll go first on this one. Then from the East, I have both the Braves and the Phillies making it. I have from the Central, the Cubs making it. And from the West, I have the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Giants all making it.
All right. I figured at least one of us would have 3 teams coming out of a division. Splash, what about yours?
All right. Number 1, Dodgers. Congratulations on your loss to the Phillies in the NLDS. Number 2, Braves. Number 3, Reds. Number 4, Phillies. Number 5, Giants. Number 6, Cubs.
All right. And then mine, I have Dodgers 1, Braves 2, Cubs 3, Phillies 4, D-backs 5, and call me a homer, I'm going with the Mets as the 6th team. So let's go through our awards. We're going to start with Rookie of the Year in the National League. I think there's a clear favorite in Yoshinobu Yamamoto for the National League Rookie of the Year. Since I think all 3 of us are probably thinking along the same lines here, who else do you think contends for this award this year?
Okay. Slow your roll, pal. Maybe thinking along the same lines of someone that's coming over from the NPB, but I'm gonna go Shota Imanaga of the Cubs. I like the stuff. He's striking out a ton of guys in spring training, and I know there's the fly ball thing, but I've watched games at Wrigley Field. Sometimes the fly balls are good. So if
The
he,
wind is blowing in. Yeah.
yeah, did you guys see the goal that Chicago Fire scored to beat Montreal?
No.
Okay,
No, I did not.
please look it up afterwards. The guy scored from like 60 yards away, and it just caught a nice wind current. So Windy City for a reason. I have Shota Imanaga as my National League Rookie of the Year pick. I don't trust the Dodgers to throw Yamamoto and Glasnow and co enough innings to pick them for awards. I think Imanaga is going to be a key part of this rotation and potentially an even bigger part without a Jameson Tyone. So I think he ends up being closer to a Kodai Senga, who would have won the Rookie of the Year in most years, but he happened to run into a pleasing hot Corbin Carroll. So Imanaga is my pick.
I'll just say quickly then, Yamamoto is mine. I don't agree with your argument saying that they're not going to throw him enough innings to make it work. I think he's going to do exceptionally well in the time that he's given. He's going to be a top 3 pitcher for them this year. And when it comes to rookies, I think it's going to be a good battle overall, but I think Yamamoto takes it.
Yeah, so I'm going with Yamamoto too. It's hard to pick against him. I feel like he's an established pitcher in NPB. He has nasty stuff, really. I think if I were to look at some potential runner-up candidates, Jung Ho Lee, I really like his profile at the plate. And then
Yeah.
and I think he's going to be a key player for the Giants this year. James Wood for the Nationals, if he comes up, he's got a lot of potential. One guy who's still rookie eligible, Sixto Sanchez, if he is used properly by the Marlins as a reliever, he could have a huge year. So those are some guys just to keep an eye on there. I'm sure I mean, if the Pirates call Paul Skeens or if the Nationals call up Dylan Cruz, there are other guys who can contend. Those are just some guys off the top of my head. But let's move over to the Cy Young because I think this is an award without a clear favorite. Alex, how about you start us off here? National League Cy Young. Who do you got?
I am going to go with Spencer Strider. I think that Strider is, in my opinion, when I was looking at this, I thought, who is the best pitcher in the National League? I was kind of going team by team, and one name really stood out, and it was Spencer Strider. So he's got the amazing ability of striking out everything that moves. Here, the fact that he could go, like, what was it? He had a stat line in a recent game that was like 4 innings, 8 strikeouts, something like that. Like, that's, I know it's spring training, but 4 innings to get 8 is
Yeah,
impressive.
he has 29 strikeouts and 18 and a third right now.
That's insane. Like, I know the strikeouts aren't everything when you're a pitcher, but he does pretty much everything right. Like, how in the American League the number 1 guy was looking to be Garrett Cole, but now he may not be playing as much. We'll see. I don't think there's really any other amazing competition. Like, I mean, you could technically go with like a Glasnow, or hell, you could even go with a Yamamoto or an Imanaga. But I think that Strider, he's a pitcher that has done the best over the longest amount of time here. That gives me the most confidence to say that he'll be number 1.
So I'm going in a different direction here. Another National League East pitcher. I'm going with Zach Wheeler. I feel like this is finally the year he gets one. I know he just got that big contract, and I was kind of thinking beforehand, like, it's a contract year. He'll definitely ball out. I still think he's going to ball out. So Wheeler, he's a workhorse. He gets strikeouts. He hasn't really lost much off his fastball. He's got a great pitch arsenal, and he's the ace for that Phillies team, who I think they're going to be very good this year again. So give me Zach Wheeler winning National League Cy Young. Splash, I know Strider is your guy for the Braves, but who do you have?
I do not have Strider. I will say Max Fried is an awesome bet before he heads off to Southern California. But I'm going to go with Logan Webb, just a total workhorse, innings eater. I think he's going to be if you're big into the narratives, he's going to be a difference maker between the Giants making and missing the playoffs. He's going to throw 200 innings. He's going to strike out like 190 batters. He's going to get a ton of ground balls, right to Matt Chapman, Gold Glove. level fielder, right to Nick Ahmed, Gold Glove level fielder, right to Tyro Estrada, in theory, a Gold Glove level fielder, depending on what metric you look at. Outs above average, really loves him. But yeah, Logan Webb's my Cy Young pick.
All right, so I'm going to dive into MVP, and my pick is Mookie Betts. I think the move to the infield definitely increases his value. I mean, how many middle infielders do you have that can hit 35 to 40 home runs? It's so hard to not like this guy. He's just such a great person and a great player. He's a five-tool player, pretty much. I think it's Mookie Betts. He's not the only MVP candidate on his team, but I think this is the year he gets in the National League. He joins Frank Robinson as the only player to win an MVP in both leagues. Uh, let's go to Splash here, National League MVP.
El Nino, baby. Fernando Tatis Jr. You're taking a guy that moved from the outfield to the infield. I'm taking a guy who moved from the infield to the outfield. 40 home runs coming from Tatis, 30 steals. So welcome to the 30-30 club. On the Twitter, I posted a hot take. It was Tatis hits 300, hits 30 home runs, steals 30 bases, has 300 total bases. I think he does that. He might do that before September begins, by the way. He's awesome, and he's a stud defensively. So I think he will lead the National League in WAR over Mookie Betts and win the MVP.
I mean, he
So
did underperform a lot of his batted ball metrics, so I can
This
see
is
that
true.
happening.
so
Very,
here's my
very
thing.
similar to Acuna in 2022.
Here's my thing when it comes to
Just with awesome
Tatis.
defense.
Like, yes, he's extremely good and honestly has the ability to make to make an MVP case at that point. But I honestly don't think he's gonna get the numbers and not through his own means. Like I said in my when I was talking about the divisions here, I think he's gonna be pitched around a lot this year, which will make it harder for him to get these numbers. Here, he'll get on base a lot, which I mean could help his steals a lot. Good. But I don't think he's going to hit as well just because they're not going to be giving him any pitches to hit. I'm with Mac here. My pick for this one is going to be Mookie Betts. A lot of times when you look at WAR and we look at players that add WAR to it, there's a lot better case. You get more WAR for being in the infield than you do the outfield. Like, I mean, there was a whole video, by the way. If you wanted to go watch something interesting, go look up oh, I just lost the name of it, but it was talking about my favorite player, worst player being Jeff Francoeur.
Oh, John
It's from
Boyce.
yeah, yeah,
Boyce.
Secret Base, yeah, John
Yeah.
Boyce.
Exactly, yes. I almost said John Boy, and I'm like, wait, that's not right. So thank you for the correction there. But just looking, there's so many outfielders in baseball that do amazing things here. Not near enough shortstops that do amazing things, or second basemen that do amazing things. It is because of that that's going to make Mookie Betts' numbers look even better, especially for where he is at. And because of those, his WAR is going to be higher. And I do think that overall it is much harder to find a specialist shortstop middle infielder than it is to find an outfielder. So, for those reasons, I'm going with Mookie. I'm also not degrading at all about what Mookie does. He is an incredible ball player. He does everything right, the definition of a five-tool guy. Also, if you want to make it even more fun, you can probably say 7, 8, 9, 10 tools when you take a look at his bowling ability, as well as ability to play every other sport.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Except the only thing he's not top 3 in is hair. I don't know if you guys saw his interview with Dansby Swanson, but
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
that was funny.
So now we have a couple awards that aren't actually MLB awards, but we have them at LAR. So let's start with most improved. Let's go, Alex. Give us your most improved player this year in the National League.
I said I was going to talk about the Cardinals a bit later. This is what I meant by most improved player is going to go to one Jordan Walker. Now, Walker is an interesting case because we know what he's good at and what he's not. He is good at swinging the bat and hitting the ball. What is he bad at? Fielding. But he doesn't really have a position, and so it's from that people will shy away from him. I don't know. I could see him playing some outfield a little bit more. I could see him hitting the ball a lot better than they did last year. Now it's going to be his second year in it. A lot of us had Jordan Walker as winning last year's Rookie of the Year and then just kind of struggled. And now we're looking at him as a guy that can really be a big bounce back candidate. So for that reason, I'm going for Walker.
Yeah, I am going with a New York Met. I'm going Francisco Alvarez. I think the biggest thing he needs to work on is his consistency. He had some months where he was a world beater, one Rookie of the Month, and then he'd have some months where he'd hit like one home run and then not homer for 4 weeks and bat 160. But I think if he's more consistent this year, he way outperformed our expectations on the defensive end. I think his bat, he already hit 25 homers despite those struggles. I think we're looking at a 30 to 35 homer season, still with strong defense. So give me Alvarez as most improved player. I also would not be surprised if he's an all-star this year.
So I have issues when people post breakout lists, Ben Verlander, and it's players like Francisco Alvarez that every one of their brothers is picking to break out. Um, so this is different than that, and I'll have a breakout list on the Twitter soon. But most improved player in the National League, I have Henry Davis. He was a negative 1.4 WAR player last season. That's just bad base running, bad defense, and bad hitting. I think this year he's going to be the primary catcher for Pittsburgh in theory. I think keep taking him out of the outfield and having one position that'll play all the time will be helpful. He has a hose of an arm, so that's going to give him some value there. He's also not a slow base runner, so I think this is some base running regression to the mean a little bit. So he'll be a average base runner, and I think he can hit. He's had a good spring. If that means anything, everyone in the Pirates has had a good spring, it feels like. So I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I think Henry Davis will at least remove the minus sign, and that's just about a 3-win improvement, just going 1.4 or negative 1.4 to positive 1.4. So I think he's going to be a good catcher. Maybe a sneaky all-star, sneaky utility silver slugger type. But I think he's going to be a good player this season. Now, it is low-hanging fruit because he's a former #1 overall pick, but it's most improved player, not breakout. So,
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to what Henry Davis can do this year, especially if he's getting consistent playing time, playing for a full season. So I get that pick. Let's go to our final award, the slow award, which don't get twisted. This is for fast people. So unfortunately, I doubt I will be winning this award. But Splash, why don't you start us here? Give
That
us
was such a
your
hump.
slow
That was
award.
such a subtle brag, my friend. Jeez.
I know I am the fastest runner known to mankind, but I don't think I'm winning this award.
it'd be
You
like,
are you are one of the fastest swimmers. You're definitely the best swimmer of the best of us.
I
So
mean, sure,
yeah,
yes.
yes. I think this is really a two-horse race, no pun intended. I'm going to go with Corbin Carroll, though. Last year, he had a generational season by Fangraphs base runs, by Baseball Reference base runs, whatever metric you want. He was right at the very top of it. You can go Ellie De La Cruz, C.J. Abrams, T.J. Friedel if he wasn't injured as honorable mentions, but I think Corbin Carroll's going to run away with this one. Hee hee.
that's a good pun there. I like the last part of that there. Honestly, I'm kind of torn. I have a few names that I've really been bouncing around. The ones that you said, I also like Tatis. I think it's worth a mention on that too. I'm gonna go with Ellie De La Cruz though. I think that Ellie is such an electric runner. Here, watching him fly down the base pass, looks like he's not even touching the ground when he runs. He just glides along the dirt. There, I will say I do love me Corbin Carroll. It'll be really close between the two. Yeah, I'm torn because Corbin Carroll is such a good runner too. Watching him play and getting to watch him live in Seattle for the All-Star game last year was amazing. So, you know what? I'll swap. I'm going Seattle boy Corbin Carroll.
And I believe that's a clean sweep because I'm also going with Corbin Carroll. There
Hey.
isn't much else to say about the man. He runs like the wind. I know this is not necessarily a hitting award, but he also is a great hitter. Gets triples, homers,
Mm-hmm.
doubles, steals, everything. The only thing he doesn't do well is his throwing arm. I'll say that much. I love watching Corbin Carroll play. I think he's gonna have another huge year. So, with that, we've reached everyone's favorite segment, which is trivia. Splash is hosting this part today, so Splash, take it away.
Hello, friends. Jim Nance, Phil Sims here. I have trivia. Last 9 week, 10, 11, last 11 shows, we have done a top 5. So I've compiled all of those rankings into a list. And these lists, similar to our awards in the past, each player you pick, so let's say you have the third ranked third baseman, right? He earns you 3 points. He earns his team 3 points. If you're first place, you get 5 points. If you're fifth place, you get 1 point. If you're eighth place, you get 0 points. So With that said, I have all 30 teams, all of their points tallied up, and how we distributed them. So, Mac, Alex, you have to remember who had who in their rankings.
Okay, I'm very confused on what we are doing here.
Okay. So I will give you a qualifier, a category, a thing, and you have to tell me. I'll give you an example. Mac Splash had a bunch of guys on his teams. Which team accounted for the most points out of his voting out of his the ranking system?
Yeah, positioning.
Do I need to reframe that question?
Maybe. Okay, so let me make sure. Let me see if I know what's going on here. So let me.
Okay.
I'll say it how I think it is.
Sure.
We are going to go. Like you're gonna give us a name, and you need to give. We need to give you who we thought we put the most players on from any one team.
Not most players, most points. So if you had like a player who was first place, so say you're ranking quarterbacks and you have Patrick Mahomes number 1, that would be 5 points.
So we would say
That would be 5 points for the Chiefs.
okay, yeah. So we would say like a team like Padres or Mariners or Braves. Okay.
Yes. So which team did I give the most points to, basically?
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
All right, I'm following.
Okay, I think I understand it now.
Okay.
Are you going to give us a name for each round, or?
Yes, it's a category. Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So Max, since I gave you the little opener question, Alex, you get the first real question.
Okay.
You have to name either team that Mac distributed 0 points to, but both you and I gave at least 2 points to.
Okay, let's see here.
So one team got 9 total points, one team got 8 total points, none from Mac.
I want to say the Rockies.
The Rockies is incorrect. He
I know
had
for a fact
Jones in his list.
Yeah.
Oh, he did have Nolan Jones. Okay.
All right, Mac. We have the inverted question for you here.
Yep.
Alex says 2 teams that he did not vote for, but you and I both gave 2 votes for. Name either.
Oh man. I think this one is the Colorado Rockies.
That is correct.
Yeah,
Nolan Jones
I remember.
appreciation.
Yeah, luckily today you tweeted our top 5 left fielders, so I remember that.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, Alex.
Okay.
Which team did Mac give the most points for?
Ooh. I'm going to say the Dodgers.
That is correct.
Yep.
Yeah, shocker there.
What team did Alex give the most points to?
The Seattle Mariners.
Tied for second. It was the Braves.
What?
Yep.
Let's go!
1-1. It is 1-1.
I am a homer, but not that much, dude.
Alex, name either National League team that was not involved in any of our rankings.
In any of our rankings?
Yes. 0 for 11.
Nationals.
Correct. Mac, name either American League team that was left out of all of our rankings.
The Oakland A's.
That is correct.
That's too easy.
All right, Alex.
Yeah.
Name the only player who is currently a free agent who was included in our rankings.
Blake Snell?
That is incorrect.
Nope. I know
JD
the
Martinez.
answer here. Yes. None of us ranked Snell in our top 5.
Okay.
All right.
I figured one of you guys would have put Snell in there.
No, it's JD Martinez. All right, Mac. There are 2 teams that earned 4 total points, but none from me. Name either team.
Okay. Wow. None from you. That's a tough one. I'm trying to remember where we had our differences. I'm gonna say, oh yeah, I think this is the one. The Pittsburgh Pirates.
That is correct. They had 4
Let's
points.
go.
Alex had Brian Reynolds. Mac had David Bednar.
I had Bednar. Yes.
All right.
Nice.
Alex, to stay alive.
Okay.
Outside of the Braves and Dodgers, only one team had 10 points from all 3 of us. Name that team. 10 points from all 3 of us.
Outside of the Braves and Dodgers?
Yep. The Braves cleared, the minimum was 16 for Mac. The Dodgers cleared, the minimum was 15 for you, Alex. One other team had 12 each,
Okay,
12 or more each.
I'm gonna go with the Padres.
Sir, the Padres had 16 total points. So Mac, do you have a guess?
The Mariners.
I only had 3 points to the Mariners. You had 6 points to the Mariners. The correct answer is the New York Yankees.
Oh yeah, because of
The power of goal
Cole
are
and
goal
Soto,
and Judge. So
Judge. Oh
there
my
we are.
God, yeah, you're right.
All right.
Okay.
So
Wow.
congratulations, Mac. I
Thank you,
think
thank
that was
you.
a three, either a 3-2 win or a 4-3 win. Either way, congratulations. Good job, Alex. Thank you for remembering these better than the last time we did something like this.
Yeah,
Okay, the last time you did something like this, it was over the course of several months, and it was your rankings that you put on everything instead of our own. Thank you very much.
All right.
I appreciated that
Mac, I'll
one
let
though.
you close out the show.
Yeah, so we will end our show with the way we end every single show, which is the moment to ourselves, the 60 seconds, give or take your few, to talk about whatever is on our mind. It doesn't have to be baseball or sports related. So, gentlemen, who here wants to go first? Splash, I saw you put your hand up first. So we are going to go with you. Your time starts in three, two, one.
Okay, last week I talked about how the Dodgers were frauds. This week, JD Davis's agent is a fraud. So I was listening to Locked On Giants, and Ben Caspick does a great job with that. And he's breaking down the situation that JD Davis had, that he accepts the arbitration, or he wins his arbitration case and he gets 6.9 not guaranteed $1 million. Okay, great. There was a chance that he could have had 6.3 real life guaranteed dollars from the Giants, but his agent decided, nope, we're going to go to arbitration. And in arbitration, according to the CBA, that contract is not guaranteed, right? So JD Davis, when he got cut, understandably, when he got cut, he got 1.1 million of his prorated salaries, 30 days worth of salary. Okay, great. But the agent oversold his client by about $5 million. This, to me, is worse than anything Scott Boras did all off season. That, oh, he's this, that. Yeah, his players are like flawed players. I get it. And he kind of oversold them. But JD Davis's agent cost JD Davis about $5 million because he went for a not guaranteed contract when the Giants were linked to Matt Chapman the entire offseason. So to me, you should have gone for the 6.3 or so million guaranteed rather than, yeah, let me go for that extra 600K, but then logically get cut. So JD Davis, agent, you are a fraud.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation. I'll say that much, though, is that Davis lost out on a little over $5 million. And it's tough. I know that he was a Met, and I mean, he's not a bad player necessarily, but
Like I feel bad
unfortunately,
for JD Davis, and I feel bad for the Giants that they're getting the back last year. But I think it was the agent's fault. I think the Giants were well within their right. I think JD Davis got mishandled, led
yeah, I
astray,
get what
run
you're saying.
amok.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a tough one there, because obviously you want the best for your client, but that was it. Unfortunately, ended up with him getting released. Now he's in Oakland, where I'm curious to see how that plays out
it's
there,
just
because
illogical. So,
he will be an everyday player in Oakland.
All right.
Alex, would you like to go next? Uh,
Yes, I would.
all right, perfect. All right,
All
your
right.
time starts in three, two, one, go.
So I've been very vocal about the fact that I'm not a big fan of March Madness. I'm not a big fan of college basketball. I know I'm very much on the outsider on that, but I've just never really enjoyed it. I think I'm forced to watch it this year, and I'm very okay with this from the fact that the number 7 seed in the East Division is your one and only Washington State Cougars. Yeah, the first time in many, many years that the Cougs have made it to the March Madness tournament. I am so excited to get to watch the play. I got to see a lot of WSU basketball, both men's and women's, in during my time at Pullman. I called a lot of it here doing play-by-play for KUGR. And you know what? Like, I had a blast doing it, but it was always weird just never seeing any hype around the team. I just saw Beasley Coliseum where they had a line all the way out to the actual like football field with people waiting to get into that game. And I love seeing it. I'm so excited to see them actually getting a chance in the March Madness tournament, and I might actually have to fill out a bracket this year.
And they will lose in the Elite Eight to my Yukon Huskies.
I mean that's
Oh,
a bold
well,
statement. That's a bold statement, Cotton.
personally, obviously, I look forward to March Madness every year, even though Syracuse has now missed it 3 years in a row. Definitely not my class's fault, by the way, that they made the Sweet 16 the year before we arrived on campus, and then immediately have missed out 3 years in a row. Not fun. But anyway, I'll get started in three, two, one. So I just want to talk about the weekend I had in Boston. I was there to race with my team, and I am fairly confident when I say that was probably the best weekend of racing I've had since college. I exceeded my expectations by a lot. I feel like, plus it was just fun to be there with my teammates. Obviously I loved my college teammates too. They were awesome. Something about hanging out with the Masters team. It's a lot of fun. First of all, I know I said I exceed my own expectations. Expectations aren't always very high, which means there's less pressure. It's more about just enjoying yourself in the moment. You get to compete, still, despite the fact that you're out of college. It was just a good time. We got to eat some good food. We celebrated St. Patrick's Day the older people way, I would say. We went and had barbecue on Saturday night. Had a singular beer and then went home for the night. Walked back home along the Charles River. Which, by the way, walking along the Charles River is pretty relaxing. It's pretty awesome. We stayed walking distance, and also I'd like to shout out the DoubleTree Cambridge for giving us free cookies every time we walked in the door. So that was definitely a highlight of the weekend. I ate that for dessert every single night. So yeah, that was an awesome weekend in Cambridge, and I'm looking forward to what this week in Florida has in store. So that will do it for today's show. Uh, if you disagree with our predictions, make sure to let us know at LAR_baseball on both Twitter and Instagram. Make sure to follow us there. And let us know on YouTube too. You can follow us. Sorry, not follow us. You can subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to hit that like button too. Splash has been putting up all sorts of stuff on our YouTube channel. Make sure to follow all of us on Twitter. Follow myself at Mathias_A_K. Follow Splash at Mr. Splashman19. Follow Alex at the Sports Guy 242. Guys, we have finally reached baseball season. Seoul Series this week, real opening day next week. So let's get excited. You'll be getting all of our AL predictions next week, as well as our playoff pictures. So, guys, thank you for listening and hope to see you all real soon.